Hello boys and girls, it's Emily again. Today I am going to read you You Are Mine, and this is also a Max Lucado book. I'm afraid it is a little bit small again today, so hopefully you will be able to see the pictures. Punchinello lived in Wemmixville, just like all the other Wemmicks. He was made of wood, and he had been carved by Eli, the Wemmick maker. Sometimes the Wemmicks did silly things, like the time they collected boxes and balls. Things started getting crazy when a Wemmick named Tuck bought a new box. Others had boxes, but Tuck's was new. Tuck loved his new box. It was brightly coloured, and he was proud of it. He strutted up and down the street, showing off his box. "Have you seen my new box?" he would ask the Wemmicks as he passed. "Would you like to touch it?" Tuck found Punchinello. "Don't you wish you had a new box?" he teased. Punchinello thought Tuck's box was beautiful, and he wished for a box of his own. Soon Tuck began to think he was better than the other Wemmicks because he had a new box. Nip disagreed. My box is as good as Tuck's," he said, showing it off on the other side of the street. Tuck gave Nip a mad look. Then he had an idea. He stepped into a store and he bought a ball. Now he had more things than Nip, a box and a ball. Nip frowned at Tuck's ball and then bought 2 balls. He boasted to Tuck, "I have more than you." Before he knew it, Tuck was buying another box. Then Nip bought another ball. Then Tuck bought a ball and Nip bought a box. Ball, box, ball, box. Tuck, Nip, Nip, Tuck. On and on it went. The mayor tried to stop the whole mess. "You two are being silly," he said to Nip and Tuck. "Why? Who cares who has the most toys?" "You're just jealous," they replied, "because you don't have any." "Jealous? Of you? Ha!" But soon the mayor was in the store buying boxes and balls. Other Wemmicks began to join in. The baker, the butcher, the doctor, the dentist. Before long, everybody wanted to own the most balls and boxes. Some boxes were big, some were bright, some balls were heavy and some were light. Tall people carried them, small people carried them. Everybody carried them, and everybody thought, good Wemmicks have a lot. Not so good Wemmicks have little. When a Wemmick walked down the street with a stack of balls and boxes higher than their head, the people stopped. "Now there goes a good Wemmick," they would say. But when a Wemmick passed by with only one ball or box, the others would say, "Poor, poor Wemmick." Of course, Punchinello didn't want to be called a poor Wemmick. He searched through his closet and found one little ball. He dug into his pocket and found enough money for one small box. "I know what I'll do," he declared. "I'll sell my books to get money to buy more boxes and balls." So he bought a blue and green box with clouds painted on the sides. But still he wanted more. He worked nights for extra money and he bought a ball. And since he was working nights, he didn't use his bed. So he sold it and bought 2 more balls. Soon Punchinello had an armful, but other Wemmicks had more. Some of them carried so many boxes and balls that they had trouble walking. Punchinello wanted to be like these Wemmicks, so he sold more stuff and he worked more hours. His eyes were tired from not getting any sleep. His arms were tired from carrying the toys. And worst of all, his friends couldn't remember when Punchinello last came to play. "We haven't seen you lately," Lucia said. "Why don't you come and play?" asked Splint. Not everyone cares about boxes and balls. Punchinello's friends didn't, but Punchinello told his friends, "I've got to work to do." His friends sighed, but Punchinello only cared what the other box and ball people thought. So he got a new idea. I'll sell my house. That's crazy, cried Lucia. Where will you live? Asked Splint. But all Punchinello could think about was the toys he could buy with all the money. So he sold his house. He bought boxes and balls and balls and more balls. He carried so many toys he couldn't see where he was going. His stack went way above his head, but he didn't mind. So what if his arms ached? So what if he kept walking into walls? So what if he had no friends? He had boxes and balls, and when he passed Wemmicks, they would turn and say, "Whoa, he must be a good Wemmick." Punchinello felt great. "I'm a good Wemmick," he thought. But then the mayor's wife changed the rules. She was very proud of her boxes and balls. She not only had a lot, but she also had special kinds. She bought them at the fanciest stores with funny names and left the names on the boxes so everyone would see them. She wanted to be the best Wemmick. One day she had an idea. Not only will I be the most, but I will go the highest. So she climbed on top of one of her boxes and shouted, "Look at me, everybody." Immediately, all of the box and ball people tried to outdo her. One climbed on a fat fountain, another on a balcony, and then another onto a roof. It was the mayor who spotted the mountain. However, behind the village stood Wemmick's Peak. "I'm going to the top of the mountain," the mayor shouted. The race was on. Wemmicks loaded their boxes and balls and began running up the mountain. It was a crazy race. Since the people couldn't see where they were going, they bumped into each other. Exhausted, they fell over their own feet. Some fell off the trail, but the rest kept going. Bringing up the rear was Punchinello. After all, he had only been a good Wemmick for a short time. But he wasn't used to carrying so much. But since he couldn't see, he didn't know he had left the trail. Suddenly he was alone. "I'm ahead of the others," he thought. "I'll be the highest, with the most." About that time, Punchinello's foot caught the edge of a porch step. He tried to keep his balance. His toy swayed to the left and then to the right. He leaned back, then forward, and then tumbled right through the door of Eli's workshop. When Punchinello realised where he was embarrassed. For a long time he stayed face down on the floor. One of the balls rolled across the floor to Eli's workbench. The wood carver turned around. "Punchinello!" Eli's voice was calm and kind. The Wemmick could feel his face turn red. "Looks like you've been carrying a big load." Punchinello rose to his knees, his head low. "These are my boxes and balls," he said quietly. "Do you play with the boxes and balls?" asked Eli. Punchinello shook its head. "Do you like the boxes and balls?" "I like the way that they make me feel." "And how do they make you feel?" "Important," Punchinello answered, still with a small voice. Eli observed. "So you've been thinking like the other Wemmicks, that the more you have, the better you are, and the happier you'll be." "I suppose so." "Come here," said Punchinello. "I want to show you something." Punchinello looked up at Eli for the first time. He was glad that the Wemmick maker wasn't mad. Punchinello followed Eli to the window. "Look at them," Eli said. Punchinello saw the Wemmicks climbing the mountain. They were tumbling and stumbling and fighting each other to get ahead. "Do they look happy?" Eli said. Punchinello just shook his head. "Do they look important?" "No, not at all," Punchinello said, seeing the mayor and his wife. She was stepping on his back, and he was on the ground. She had a box on her head, and he had a ball in his mouth. "Did I create them to act this way?" asked Eli. "No." Punchinello felt a big hand on his shoulder. Do you know how much your boxes and balls cost you? My books and my bed. My money and my house. My little friend, they cost you much more than that. They cost you your happiness, didn't they? Punchinello paused. Yes. They cost you your friends. What's worse, you did not trust me to make you happy. You trusted in toys. Punchinello looked at his toys. Suddenly they didn't seem so valuable. I kind of messed up. That's okay. You're still special. Punchinello ducked his head and smiled. You're special, not for what you have, but for who you are. You are mine, and I love you. Don't forget that. I won't, Punchinello said. Eli? Yes. What should I do with the boxes and balls? Perhaps you should give them to someone who really needs them. Punchinello turned to leave, but stopped. Eli? Yes. I don't have a place to sleep. Eli smiled and offered. Would you like to sleep here tonight? I sure would. I'm very tired. And so that night Punchinello slept on a bed of straw. He slept well. It felt good to be in the house of his maker. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I've just got a couple of questions for you. I wonder why Punchinello felt that he needed all of the boxes and balls. What do you think? I wonder if you think good Wemmicks have a lot and the not so good Wemmicks have little. What do you think to that? I wonder how Lucia and Splint felt when Punchinello didn't spend time with them and he didn't play with them. How would you feel? I wonder if you've put anything in your life which could represent like the box or the ball that you think makes you happy, but it really doesn't. Maybe you could have a chat to your mummy or daddy about that. Did you know that you are God's child and he loves you and he thinks you're special? And sometimes even when you mess up or you do things that are silly or things that are bad, that he still loves you and he still wants to be your friend. And what really matters isn't what you have, but it's who you are and whose you are. And that means that you are God's child because he is the one that's created you and he loves you. I wonder if you could talk to your mummy and daddies about this story and see what you think about it. I'll see ya. Bye bye.